Hi everyone, welcome to Free Week. Welcome to the Portrait System. And if we have not met yet, I am Sue Bryce, and this is a live session with me. I do this every month with my members. And today this is about opening up so that you guys can see what we do and what we share. And there's lots of members in here too. This is my new set, by the way. Isn't it groovy? I absolutely love it. Give me a shout out. Tell me where you're coming in from. And obviously, my chat is open here. You are free to ask me questions whenever you want. And if it pops up on the chat and lots of people are asking questions and your question goes very quickly, put it back up there. You can interact with me live. That's the whole point. I'm not live shooting today. I've got a keynote demo to show you, but I can live demo myself. I want to talk to you today about posing. I have created so much posing content in the last 10 years, and I honestly can't stop doing it because I feel like it's just such a huge subject. Now, throughout the last 32 years of being a photographer, I've evolved a lot, and I often to SBE into this library pick some of the biggest classes that we created in the last 5 years and update them, redo them. And posing doesn't change a lot. The foundation poses really don't change. Hands have not changed. I'm going to walk you through all the little changes that are coming up. This pose series is on TPM. It's an extra cost, and it's also in our premium membership. So don't worry if you don't qualify for it just yet, because there are probably 30 different posing guides in SBE that you can access now that teach you everything you need to know. So I want to just tell you the updates, some new trends that are happening in the world, because like I said, I evolve everything I've done in my business because I want to stay connected to what's happening in the world, what's happening on social media, what's happening, in the world with women and body image, because it really impacts my brand. I realized that I'm one of very few instructors in the world that teach curves posing, and that's teaching how to direct and pose all body types. And it definitely took me to the top of my field when I started educating. But because it was my wheelhouse and it was such a big part of who I was as a photographer and part of my brand, I feel like all of that incredible posing education is so beautiful, but I needed to evolve to what's happening in the world with body image and just being a little bit more contemporary. I felt like I was teaching people how to fix curvy bodies, not celebrate them or photograph them beautifully. And it really was highlighted to me when I met Terry Hofford, who's an incredible photographer, speaker, and body image expert. I don't want to put out into the world that I can warp your chin and warp your arm and make you look like you don't look. And that's not what I teach. I teach how to, move all bodies and how they look good. But I just wanted to make sure that this new series was more in alignment with what I 100% believe, and that is we need to celebrate all bodies. So I really just took the emphasis of fixing curves and started to put the emphasis on how do all of these different bodies move and what are their restrictions. And here's the most crazy thing I want to show you. We really focused on when Carrie-Anne felt the most uncomfortable, because I don't want my clients to ever be in a position where their bodies are physically in pain. And even though I've made stupid jokes over the years as I'm teaching, that I can get people into poses that, cause cramps. And I've always joked, beauty is pain. But I just wanted to make sure that my message was super clear, that I'm moving with the times, and that also I'm making sure that body image is part of my brand. If it's not part of yours, it doesn't matter. You'll still get a lot out of posing and directing and moving people. And I've got a little challenge for you to practice when you're done. So let me show you a few of the updates. Pose went out, it's updated. these are the 3 different body types. I've specifically chose Aphrodite, who's tall, very lean, and then I've got Chrissy, who's athletic with muscles. And Chrissy's like me, her shoulder width is wider than her hip width, so it's a triangle body type, which people always get stuck on: muscular arms, muscular shoulders with women. And so she's such a powerful body to use. And then I used Carrie Ann for my curvy body. I chose not to retouch any of the images that you see in that entire series because it's really important to me that you see how their bodies look out of camera. And also, if we're working with photographing people that don't want to be in front of the camera because they don't feel good about their bodies, isn't that because we're not showing them that we can pose beautiful bodies in all different ways and making sure that, it's an option? Like I say, I always found that there were 2 types of women that came in that had curvy bodies. They were either covered and didn't want to show their body and just would say to me, "Can you just take a photo of my face?" Would you believe that? I heard that for years and years and years, 25 years ago. And then there was these beautiful clients that would just come in gorgeous dresses and outfits, and they're celebrating their bodies. And that's when I realized I was trying to fix people instead of trying to celebrate them. So that's been a really big part for me. What makes me so excited about this new series, I'll just take a question when I found to video. Yes, Ashley, you know what? The biggest traction I've ever had in my social media on YouTube was when I show videos of photographing multiple body types. If this is something that you are getting good at, and this is something that you enjoy learning and that you want to do more of, please do, because it changes your business, changes the way you attract people into your business. And I'm always going to tell you, a business that is created with a form of purpose, when it's something that has a strong message and it's something that's actually tied to you, you become a bit of a force of nature. I wanted to see how these bodies moved in all of the foundation poses, from sitting, rotations, standing, leaning against the wall, and lying down. I wanted to make sure that I was creating a cohesive set of poses and images across 3 very different types of bodies, and I'll show you these 3 consecutively, that didn't look different from each other. It wasn't about curvy girls stay in this box, and athletic muscular girls can't do these poses. It was really just about where they all look beautiful. One of the things I definitely want to start showing people from here on in is Carrie Ann's body can do everything that Aphrodite's could. And Aphrodite's a foot longer, and she's got so much more ability to move into tighter poses. But in all the foundations, there was nothing that Carrie Ann could not do. There were many times where she felt uncomfortable, and we address it. And that's very, very important. So I really wanted to make sure I was taking her through the beauty poses, hands up to the face, because we tend to not do that with curvy clients because we think, oh, she doesn't want that chubby hand in there. She doesn't want that arm in there. And we've got to be careful, that we are serving the client and what they want and what they need. Okay. And it's so, so, so important. My pet peeve is beautiful people who have poor body image despite their body types. Yeah. Well, body image, Michael, body image is for anybody the worst. You have decided that you are not good enough for whatever reason. And it just blows me away. It's something that constantly comes up in the conversation when you are photographing women. And maybe it was always coming up in conversation for me because it's always been part of my narrative, part of my marketing, part of my sort of process. And, I guess it's something that I have to, to Carrie Ann. I am chubby and it's okay. And you know what, Carrie Ann, it's, I felt that day that we were shooting, it was a different way of shooting. We were celebrating, laughing, all standing around. It felt like a workshop. It felt like it should be a workshop. I told the group last week, this is a workshop I would like to teach, where you take people through just body, image, self-love, and you know me, I'll get on a tangent with self-value and then I won't be able to get off. Nothing's changed with the chin and the shoulder connection. I learned so long ago to create this beautiful connection with the chin and the shoulder, how to direct it with my hands, and I look for it. I'm obsessed with it, and you know what? I'm going to do more live shoots teaching you expression and connection, because it lit me up. It just lights me up doing it. So I absolutely am going to do more. I want to show you this. When I said I did not retouch any of the images of Carrie Ann, I did not. And that entire series is about showing her real body and all of their real bodies, because even Aphrodite at 6 foot, she doesn't have a waist. She's just a column, and she has to really move her body just to get any shape. As I started to photograph, Carrie Ann did her 40 over 40 release and book, and it was absolutely incredible, and she did an exhibition. And so she called me and said, do you have a nice image I can use for my book? And I sent her this photograph, and we talked about it, and I said I did not retouch this photograph. This is the only thing that I touched on this photograph for her book cover. Now, if you look at this chin line, I darkened this side of her chin. Okay, so I just put a layer mask and I just darkened in just to give her a little bit of contour under her chin line. And then I removed just that tiny little sort of diagonal line that's just on her chin. And that's all I did. It opened her up beautifully. It's all of her natural lines. She looks comfortable. And obviously, she looks really, really good. So I really want to get to a place now where I'm just not retouching my clients like I used to. Times have changed, glamour has changed, life has changed. 30 years later, I look at some of the first images I took of Carrie Ann, and I've warped her arm, leaned her into very deep leaning poses. I've warped her chin. I've changed her body shape, and I never want to do that without integrity, or if it's not what my client wants. And I think that that is very, very, very important. If you look at the angles, these are changing a little. Instead of getting above her and having her recline, it was more about creating multiple boxes around Carrie Ann's body so that she could come into all of these positions super comfortably without using her back muscles to hold her entire body up in tilts. I still noticed whenever I turned her past the point where she didn't look connected to her chin, and I knew her body line was out and I could just bring her straight back into alignment. But I wasn't getting too high in my tilt. I was making more layers for her just to lean on in. Okay. Yes, Freya, let's just talk about that, because I think it's very important. I agree with you, Sue. I've always been worried my clients won't like their photos if it's not retouched as much. That's why the conversation you have with them, when you design their shoot, you look at what they're trying to create, what their story is, what their message is. If you talk about that, then you can obviously bring that to the table and have that conversation first. I think another thing that's really developed in photography in the last 5 years is we spent 10 years telling people not to shoot and burn so that they could actually have a profitable and sustainable business. There's a very big difference between the evolution of digital packages and digital viewings, like selling on Zoom, selling online, then there is a shoot and burn, and you've got to understand the distinction. I'm not talking about the shoot and burn when I'm talking about digital packages. Digital packages can still be sold at the same value as printed packages if they are positioned, educated, connected, and delivered that way. Okay, and I think that is so important. So have that conversation. Also, specifically, without pigeonholing myself, which you always get pigeonholed when you have a niche, is I had a glamour studio. I was heavily retouching my images for the majority of the early sort of 2000s, and then coming into the 10s. And then as I got to the end, it was just something I was definitely just not doing as much of. So whether it contributes to your message and body image, whether it's just an evolution of how you're selling and you want to sell digital packages unretouched because it's faster and creates revenue, don't even try to do that until you've at least mastered and broken through in-person sales. Please promise me, because otherwise you're just going to revert back to a shoot and burner. But Freya, that is all about you setting expectation of what you create, and also making sure that that's in your dialogue when you are having your consultations and your setups. Okay, shaping bodies, nothing changes. I am all about posing people from the feet, moving their hips, and then using their arms to shape their bodies. I love shaping bodies. It doesn't matter what your body looks like. I love moving them, shaping them, and finding where they are just the most beautiful. Nothing changes here. All you're ever doing is posing from the feet up. Okay, we have got some incredible just base posing videos already in SBE with printable guides. You can go in and just choose a subject. If you want to do teens, hit the teen posing. Basically, we just take all the sexy out. Okay, we don't want to sexualize any posing, so we take out where the hands touch, where the shoulder connects. And once you see all of that sort of sexiness taken out of the posing, you really start to see different ways to shape the body and move the body. Because as soon as we bring the hips into play, we bring the eyes down to the hourglass. And that's why shaping bodies is called what it's called. I'll just take a couple of questions because I can see my chat's rolling fast and I don't want to miss anything. Janice, would you be able to do posing for 3 sisters with teenage years with 3 different body sizes? Let me think. I'm pretty sure I might have a curvy mum and 2 daughters. Yes, absolutely. Here's the thing that I believe with posing, or that I practice with posing. Every single person in your image is posed individually for their body type. So whatever their body type is, how they're comfortable, where I want them to stand, how good I want them to look, whether they're sitting, standing, leaning, lying. Then if, you know, mum's in a gorgeous reclining pose because she's curvy and I want to make sure she's supported and that she's got a beautiful shape in her body, then I'm going to pose sisters or dad or kids or whoever around her exactly so that they fit in. You know, it's my little Tetris puzzle. But then their pose is distinctly for their body. So I'm always looking at posing individual people and then putting them together in sequences. And yes, I love posing multiple people at the same time. I'm always going to predominantly put my curves in the center, okay, especially if it's mum, because I want her to be the heart of the family anyway. But like I said, if you're talking to your clients now, it's not about hiding or anything like that. It's just about making sure your third person, the curvier one, is able to sit with their legs up. You know, if they're all on the floor, I'm just going to make sure I elevate that bum, pose for her body type, pose them for their body types, and bring them all together, and then connect their body language, their expression, and all of that together, that mood and vibe, and their heads and everything, just lean them on in. So for themselves, for the group. Do you color correct before or after showing the images to your clients? I would never, myself, I would never, never, never show anything that wasn't out of my raw. Probably set up, I'm going to go contrast, highlights, do a basic adjustment, and I don't color grade my images much. Okay, I've already got that set up in my camera how I like to shoot, and it's pretty perfect. Kia ora, Sue, would you pose men with the chin and the shoulder? Oh, thank you, Ashley. Absolutely not, Geordie. Okay, that's the one thing dudes don't have to do. Okay, they keep their chin up and away from their shoulder. We keep it forward and towards our shoulder because it simply changes the body language of how you're posing, looking, moving, connecting. It's very, very important. All right, back to shaping bodies, all bodies. Back when I did, Carrie-Anne has been my curvy body model for many years. And back when I did a series with Carrie-Anne, she asked me at the very end to photograph her dancing. And we talked about it then. And she was like, everybody wants to photograph me squeezed up against the wall and in tight positions that make me look good. But what if I want a photograph of me dancing? And we talked about it then. This time we actually got to do it for her. That was super beautiful. And I loved that. All right. What else? Any more questions for me? Keep popping them in. And thank you so much, Ashley, for giving me questions from Facebook. Would you apply the same less retouching to mature faces? Ooh, Freya. I just actually got my 50-year-old portraits from, I did them in June. Don't wish me happy birthday. I'm like been 50 for a while. I'm 51 this year. And I decided not to actually retouch my images. I removed a couple of, blemishes, and I was just like, I want to be less. But I think what's really important is that we're talking to our clients now. Also, for the last 10 years, my clients know what Photoshop is. They were walking into my studio in 2008 going, are you going to Photoshop me? Can you Photoshop me? Like it's something that now can be a conversation. And I think it's important because it contributes to how you are making and finishing your final product. Shaping bodies, shaping all bodies. What I love the most is when you look at this image of Chrissy on the left, when she's just standing normally, and then all she has to do is kick a knee forward and bring an elbow back, and her body just comes into this perfect shape. Like I said, with lean bodies, it's all about the hips. Otherwise, she is just straight up and down, a straight line, and making sure that you are shaping within your composition. Nothing changes with hands. Hands are one of the hardest things to learn when you're learning posing and you're refining your portrait photography. I can always tell how advanced or experienced a photographer is by where the hands are in their image. I make hand faux pas. I crop images, and sometimes I crop fingers, and sometimes I can have a flat hand to camera. I definitely am a bit of a rule breaker there because I've always said expression and connection trump hands. Okay. Now, as you get better and better, you'll notice you're posing, you're setting up your composition, you're coming back up to the expression, then you're checking the pose again in the camera. You're just eyes go down, making sure that they haven't reset their hands, making sure that they're still activating whatever part of their body you want them to keep active. You're just constantly directing them. And I'm always going hands back to the expression, hands back to the expression, hands back to the expression as I keep shooting. Because I know the second I start shooting and looking at her eyes, those hands are going to just revert back to whatever they were doing, which is usually a little fist, a claw, back of the hand, stiff hand, or this one. I love that one when people get really stiff, rigid hands. All right, some more questions. How do you manage the double chin while posing curvy mums with their babies, especially when we ask them to look down at their babies? Well, that's the conversation that we are having right now is when you come in, you've got a curvy woman, there's a really good chance she knows she's curvy. It's her body. And so you've really got to kind of just talk to them about what they like and what they don't like. And obviously, if you have a client that's sitting there going, I don't like my body right now, I just want photos of the baby, she's struggling. And the truth is she doesn't just want photos of the baby. She wants a beautiful portrait that she can treasure for the rest of her life of the child she just gave birth to. What she needs is for you to show her you can do that, to make her believe you can do that, and then to talk to her about how you would like to do that, right? So for me, if you are concerned about looking down at baby, you've got to just get forward on the chin and push away from the neck, extend forward, and it's a little uncomfortable for your client for a bit. But if it helps, just lots of nice extension and give yourself some space. Like, don't get all jammed up, because you cannot work anything when everything's closed up around the body. Wendy, I can't wait to dive into this new series. Will there be a PDF to download or posing cards included with this series? Not yet, Wendy, but obviously when I create any posing series, and all the posing series that we already have, they just keep growing, because every time somebody says, that's great, can we do this? That's great. What about a tall person? That's great. It's the wonky donkey effect. I've noticed some clients like to do hands on hips pose because they don't feel it's their personality to have any other examples. I've noticed some people don't like to do hands on the hips pose. So interestingly, there was a portrait of me from my shoot, and Jerson did the power pose with me, the cover girl, and I'm like this, and there's a series of them, like 5 shots, and my hair kind of takes off on one of them. And when my husband saw them, he was like, oh, that's my favorite shot. And I was like, that's my least favorite shot because of the pose. I felt like it wasn't me. And yet I'm kind of power pose kind of chick. So I was like, you would think. But to me, I just saw that pose and I was like, no. If you start to look at my posing guides and the way I flow, and even when I go through the flow posing at the end today, you'll see that it's not so much about hands on the hips. I don't do hands on the hips with many people, but I do it whenever I'm trying to get this specific look. And that cover girl look is when I do it. So it's kind of, I use it for the compositions. In fact, I'm about to do compositions and you'll see where. How would you pose a person who considers themselves non-binary? Oh, that's fantastic. Terry Hoffert and I were just having that conversation because Terry is doing a posing class for non-binary. And, you know, it comes down to, especially when you go and download the posing guide, flow posing for men and women, because I have a man and a woman doing the same poses, but for a man and for a woman. Now, again, in teaching something so powerful and so basic, it again pigeonholes me away from an entire group of people that need me to help them. So there is always something, and there's always somebody that needs help. I've photographed some non-binary clients that told me how they wanted to be posed. And I feel like if you have any non-binary friends, and if you have anybody in your network or work with, or you're getting clients that are non-binary, these are the people that will have this conversation with you. Nobody will have this conversation with you better than a non-binary client. One of my girls told me she wanted to be posed specifically masculine, and the other one told me she wanted to just have neither. And honestly, it was one of my favorite shoots because she's not doing anything but being, they are not doing anything but being just in their own beautiful energy. And it takes away, for me, it took away posing, and it became a little bit more sort of photojournalistic. And yeah, I mean, we live in a world now where if you have non-binary clients, they are the first people that will want to have that conversation with you. They are the first people. I have to have big conversations with them. Some want to be more masculine, feminine. Exactly right. How do you handle those who are just very awkward, uncomfortable, even after you've pulled out just all of your tricks? Jasmine, 98% of people that sit in front of my camera are just awkward and uncomfortable. I learned to talk a lot. When I shoot, it's not that I'm being necessarily loud or a certain personality type. I'm constantly directing. And when I noticed that I do that, so, you know, people are just all like, I don't know what to do. I can't see myself. They are out of control. Okay, that's all. And the older the women get in that chair, the more out of control they feel, the more scary they are, because now women used to scare me in my 20s and 30s as a photographer, older woman. Now that I'm in my 50s, I'm like, oh yeah, I could scare the hell out of a 23-year-old photographer. What do you mean you want me to sit there? Like But the truth is we're all pretty awkward and uncomfortable when we can't see ourselves. That feeling of losing control is when you take it. And when you are a strong poser and director, you're talking and directing with so much confidence and it's consistent. Your client just relinquishes that control and they just start listening and doing what you want. And then you can start to connect. That's where you need to be. Direction and connection. Go now. Watch anything with direction and connection. And on February 22nd is my live month, always early for February because we don't have that last Tuesday being the short month. I'm going to do a live shoot, direction, connection, and expression, which I love to do. And you're going to be seeing the class through my camera, not filming me like this. So you're actually going to see it in live view. And I will walk you through all the ways I get people to connect with their direction and expression, because that is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. All right. I tend to overshoot. How many shoots do you do per pose approximately? Oh, yes, I'm going to show you that. That's going to be fun. All right, I'll keep going. If there's no questions, if there's something I've missed, please bring it back. I take it uncomfortable energy. I'm reflecting back at them. Yes, it is funny, isn't it? You know, I've actually had people come into my studio and just not want to be there, like maybe a husband or a father or a sister or a daughter. Everybody else wants to be there, and this one person is just like, I do not want to be there. I just got to a point in my business where I was confident enough to just address it and to address things like that. You know, I've walked up to a family member and just very quietly in my studio said, I know you don't want to be here, but I'm going to make a portrait that will make that woman happy for the rest of her life. And it's only going to take 30 minutes and I'm going to make it painless. I have done that. I have just walked straight up to people and just like reassured them. But that can be confronting for some people. That's the point. I wanted to confront how uncomfortable they were because they were making the session really, really uncomfortable for me. And I need to get something in this session. You know, I got really brave at doing stuff like that in about my 4th year of business. I just started to realize that if I didn't have these conversations with people at the consultation, I wasn't going to serve them the way I could serve them, you know, and that's very important. My style has become minimalistic, no makeup, barely retouching, no wardrobe, just sheets, nude, and shower shots. How do you charge more when you're doing less? What do you mean doing less? You just said something that made all my goosebumps stand up, and it was this. My style is minimalistic, no makeup, barely retouching, no wardrobe, just sheets, nude, skin, and you. And I was just like, oh, that's a brand tag right there. You're not doing less. People don't buy the wardrobe and they don't buy into the makeup and the retouching. They want the result you're showing. Now, I got the result that I was showing by doing the makeup and the retouching and all that, but I still made sure I always personalized every single shoot. So, you know, it's not that you're doing less. You found your true style and voice and path. And once you find your thing, charge at it. Like, it's your thing. If it lights you up, charge at it. It's so thrilling when you find your style and your brand. Nothing's changed in hands. I love that I could bring Carrie-Anne's hands up in all of those images. This is the challenge I want you to start working on. I'm just going to take a drink of water because I talk so much and so fast, and I've got cotton mouth. Okay, this is the challenge I want you to try, and it's something that really helps you cement your flow while you're shooting. There is nothing worse than watching 10 posing videos, downloading all those posing guides, and then going into a shoot blank, like gone. Okay, you look through the camera, you take your first shot, you knew you had 8 poses to do today, and all of a sudden you can't get past the first one. It's a very common thing. Once you get into your creative brain, it's just not there. That's why we use the posing guides. We use the posing guides because we print them and then it's right there fresh in our minds when we're learning. But as you start to sort of flow and then you're getting better, but you're still missing stuff, this helps you to really cement consistent shooting. Okay. And what I do is I get my client into their position, whatever that is, just like this image here. And I'm going to do 5 changes. Okay. And the 5 changes I'm going to make are her hands and her expression. So it can either be hands, expression, or composition. But I don't change her bum position. I don't change her shoulder position. Okay. I can move in and out. I can change my image. I can go vertical and horizontal without moving her. I can have her bring a hand up, take her hand down and laugh. I can have her bring her hand across. I can have her hand come out and laugh. And I can do multiple things before I move her bum or her shoulder. Now, these are only 4 images, but I say 5. If you want to start with 3 changes, I want 3 changes before you change their position. Okay, so if they sit 45 to the camera, if they're 45 to the camera and their elbows are on the posing table, okay, before that bum moves and that shoulder moves, I want at least 5 transitions, okay, and you can change the hands, you can change, well, composition, okay, up close, nice and tight, pull back, horizontal, and you can change the expression, okay, and every single time somebody sits, you have to look at this and go, all right, what have I got here? I've got 1, I've got 2, and then I've got 3. Then I've got 4. No, I've changed position. So before I go down, what else can I do here? And if you are always looking at that challenge, that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then all of a sudden your flow is very different. Watch what happens when I include composition, and then watch what happens when I choose to flow and step in and out of that composition. Now, I firmly believe if you shoot all of your images and then crop in camera, you miss the entire connection that comes with cropping in camera. It's hard for a lot of people when they first start. I toggle my focus. Okay, I use my toggle to focus my focal point closest to the eye that I can in whatever in-camera composition I have, so that I get my focus, and I move my composition constantly. It changes the way I flow and shoot. It's not for everyone. I understand some people struggle with it and, need to shoot wider so that they get their focal point in the center. I shoot on the Canon R5. I don't have a problem with focus. That facial tracking on that camera blows my mind. And with my 50-year-old eyesight, people, like, I can't even read my phone anymore. I've just taken that text right up to granny size. All right. I had a client once that said she hated her fat wrists and didn't want to see her hands in photos at all. It was truly a challenge. Okay. When people say they don't, like they specifically, I don't like my arms and I won't have my arms in the photo, or I don't like my smile. Oh, I've heard that a million times. Okay. So for me, I'm always like this. Okay. But you can't see what I can see. So let me take a photo of those wrists. And if you don't like them, you just chuck it away and nobody will ever see it. But what if I was to take the best photo of your wrists that you have ever seen? It works. Okay, because the truth is they're just giving you objections. Let's say 2 days ago, she went out with her girlfriends. She looked fabulous. They went to a beautiful restaurant. They had a gorgeous shot taken with all the girls. She looks at the camera and she looks horrendous. And then you're like, I don't like photos of myself. So in your mind, you're just like, you probably can't take a nice photo of me because I've got fat breasts. Welcome to how women's brains works. It's just, you've just got to, as the same theme, communicate, set expectations, have that open conversation, and you've got to get people to trust you, because when they feel out of control, they got to trust that you have control. All right. And that's all it is. Control. I'm in control. I've got this. You look incredible. And I know this feels weird and you can't see what I can see, but I've got this. I've got you. And once you really get into that trust bond, it's a bit of a game changer. What if I feel like posing like I'm supposed to and I'm happy with the result, but my client doesn't? Oh, what if I feel like I'm posing like I'm supposed to? Okay, so America, if the client didn't like something, they didn't like something about the pose, so it was either the body language of the pose or the way their body looked in the pose. Sometimes people will criticize an image, but not themselves in the image. But when you get down to it, it's something they didn't like about themselves. It's very important, if they didn't like the pose or they didn't like something about the pose, that you asked why. And you could have just said, oh, what is it about this pose that you don't like? Is it something about your body? You can just have those questions just coming out constantly when people are seeing their images, because it's very good for you to understand. Oh, Morena from New Zealand. Where are you coming in from, Janine? That's true. Personally, I really dislike my smile, but at the same time, I'd love to see a photo of myself where I could love it. Danielle, it's not that you don't like your smile. You just haven't seen a good one. You haven't seen a good photograph of your smile, because the best smile in the world, in fact, there's a famous meme that says something like, you're with people you love when you laugh and you don't care how your face looks. There is a very big difference between capturing somebody in full laughter and directing them to laugh. Okay? And it's not that it's fake. There's just a few little tips and tricks. If you want to join me for the live expression shoot on February Live on the 22nd, come and do that, because I'll add laughing in here. Let me come back to my keynote. You can keep asking me questions. There's the 4 moves. Here's 4 from Aphrodite, just very simple hand movements, okay? We're going to get her into position. We've got that leading shoulder. We connect the chin. Her hands are down. I bring them up, wrap them around her body. I can bring them up to her face, off to the side. I am constantly doing 4 to 5 movements before I do anything else. Notice I did those 4 movements consecutively and did not change my composition. So that means I'm probably going to go in and do composition and expression. That's how I'm getting multiple images that don't look the same. Before anything moves, I'm going to make sure that I have captured that hand, that expression, and a different composition at least 10 times. At least 10 times. When I use composition in camera, okay, so when I'm doing it without thinking about it, and also I want to make sure that I get it to a place where I'm flowing in a way that these images are consecutively shot straight out of camera. Have a look at this. I'll just show you instead of trying to explain it. In this moment, when I take the shot on the left, I've cropped her hand off, gone. Okay, she's mid forearm. But there's something about that flow that I like. I instantly pull back to fit her in that image. And this is the challenge with photographing 6 feet. Even 6 feet that's lean, is she is a lot of arms and legs to fit into my frame. So I can tell as I'm shooting, I still want this image. There's something about both of those images, the way her hand comes across the face, even with that cropped hand. I can then decide to go in and crop tighter and get rid of that hand, or leave it. That makes me a rule breaker. The next 3 compositions I shoot, I zoomed in. Okay, so I'm now shooting with my zoom lens on the R5. So I'm not doing as much stepping in and stepping out and lunging and squatting that I used to do. But in 3 moves, I took 3 photographs, and I love all 3 for different reasons. The middle one, you can see I've dropped my angle down. And the other 2, I've stood up, but her chin is down. Now, I love the hands leading towards the camera. Again, that is a portrait rule break. And yet to me, when I flow around composition, I spend more time looking at the body, because it's the body I'm getting into all those corners. And I'm always looking at if the hand's leading, if the shoulder's leading, if the chin's following. And it's because I'm looking at composition that I do that. So let's have a look. When I shot that, I instantly zoom out and take my full length shot. I know I have to either include those feet, or I have to crop mid calf, because you just can't crop on joints and limbs. And in just a very short period of time, like maybe under a minute, I can go 1, 2, 3 images, 4, 5. I can just then have her lean straight into me, right? Changing my composition. And then I keep going on my rotation, and I can just keep flowing. I'm just going to quickly look at this question. I am 5 feet short and round, and I struggle with self-portraits. I don't have problems photographing other people, just myself. Any recommendations, please? Watch the self-portrait video on SBE that Terry Hoffer did. It's absolutely awesome, and she is amazing if you have not already. Other than that, for self-portraits, it's going to be no different than photographing anybody with a curvy body. You're either going to look at your angles, okay, or you're going to look at your poses to make sure that you're posing in a way that's, opening your body up and making it look longer. Or like Terry, you're just going to get very used to seeing your 5-foot curvy body in multiple different angles and accept that it's beautiful and perfect exactly the way it is. What lens do you use the most? Blanca, I built $1 million portrait business on a 24-105 kit lens. And then I pretty much use that and still do. Then I was the 50mm prime 1.2 for 100 years. And now when I upgraded to the R5, I got the R5 50. I also got the 35-70, and frankly, haven't taken it off since. I absolutely love it. Expression and connection, can I just say, game changer in terms of connecting your images to the world. It wouldn't matter what I wrote in posts. It wouldn't really matter. When people started to identify the connection in my images, that separated me from other photographers, even photographers that were far better than me. And, one of the things that I've always said in all of these years of presenting is I am not the best photographer. I'm a good photographer, and I mastered my craft, okay, and my style and my genre. There are a lot of photographers better than me. But at the end of the day, we all have our strengths and we all have our superpowers. And for me, that connection got me more work, more shoots. It sold, it worked, and it's magical. And also, it's something that a lot of people struggle with, and I want to keep teaching it. I love teaching it. So that's the live that I'm talking about, is this one here. Expression live shoot, February 22nd. And I just got to say, until you look at somebody's face that's completely relaxed, left image, and you start to activate micro expression, okay, because the difference between the image on that left and the image on that right is minuscule and yet distinctly obvious. Then, as I realized, telling people to smile, guiding people to smile is one of the biggest mistakes we make. All right, because there are 20 different smiles from the moment your lip starts to curl till you're at full horse. Oh, right? Like there are, and yet we think we have two smiles, like smirk and big. And to be able to like talk through this, so look at this progression. And this progression is not powerful and still the way it's powerful in video. That's why I want to do it for you live, because the way you see it light up when people light up their face and their eyes and their expression is really significant. As she starts to smile, there's a lot of smiles in here. I'm going to go back. As she starts to smile, there's a smile in her eyes. Sorry. Can we go back to the keynote? Thanks. And so now she's coming up slowly. She's got a nice light smile. She's at a big smile to medium smile, but it's still room for more. Okay. And you can still keep taking people up. Her body language shifts. You can see her chin's tucking in. That's a real laugh, you know. Then that's a real chuckle. And then she comes forward in her own body language. Her own neck moves when her expression changes because her emotion is changing. So if you're directing people to a smile without moving their body, they're not going to look like they're in that body language. And body language is really that connection. It's that feeling that it's real, that they were feeling that confidence. You can see it, feel it, palpable. Direction is when you can really just let people freestyle, but you're directing what they're doing. And at the same time, you are becoming super confident at directing expression and laughter. And I think these type of images are beautiful. In fact, when I just thought this when I was looking at them this morning, I thought to myself, when I look at this, when I look at these images, these non-static images where people are moving into their direction and emotion, I go back to static portraits and I wonder why I don't just do this. You know, and I know when I see images like this, when I see people in that beautiful energy and connection and emotion, and you're directing their bodies and everything's coming into this sort of perfect symbiotic flow of images, that when I put these out there, there isn't a client that doesn't look at this energy and go, I want what she's having. And that's creating desire and creating an experience. And all I'm really doing is showing photographs of somebody truly in that experience authentically. Now, I talk a lot about showing people the experience of what you do and what you offer, and people get really confused about that. That is right there. Those three images is showing you the experience of what I do and what I offer. And anybody looking at that is going to say, I want to be like her. Nothing has changed in the world of direction and mirror posing for me. I don't think you need to touch clients. You just don't. You can direct with your own body. You can direct using your hands, and you can direct with mirror posing. And one of the best education videos on the site is mirror posing, because you get to mirror in your mirror with your body. Dudes do it too. I say it every time. Guys become really great posers when you use your body too for the girls. And it's just an incredible skill to master. The way you can direct mirror posing makes your shoots faster because you're not getting up and back constantly. And it's just something that you will find you will just get better and better and better at, using all of my little tips and tricks and chin pans and, you know, all those things. It takes time to master all of this, but when you do, it's a good one. What do you say to this woman to make her respond this way? Ah, yes. Well, that's what's on the video, and that's what I'll show you in the video, because it's actually better to show you than it is to tell you. When I tell you, it doesn't feel the same. All right, mirror posing. If you don't know what mirror posing is, you're new to us, or you want to understand, you know, how to learn. It's basically when I use my body and I make a shape and they mirror me, and then I can teach them. So a lot of my teaching education is based on mirror posing. And if you've just started, you've been in for the last year and you're getting all those poses, make sure you're hitting mirror posing, because now that you're getting to a place where you're starting to remember all your poses and you're starting to flow, the mirror posing is going to speed everything up for you. Hello from Georgia, USA. I'm hoping to get into off-camera lighting now. No clue what I'm doing with lighting, but I have to start somewhere. Go Ben. Hello from Indiana. Your work is beautiful. I've been following it for such a long time. How long did it take you to feel like you were confident in your work and that you were starting to perfect what you were doing? I was a bit different. I was an employed photographer from 18 years old to 30. So I'd already built my folio when I started my business. And I think that that's a really big distinction. If you have only just started building a contemporary portrait folio and you're starting a business at the same time, then it can take a little bit longer. Just about everybody in my network takes 3 to 5 years. It definitely took me 3 in business, even with my folio built. I was a slower study though, but I didn't have the education that I've created to help you go through faster. But yes, you'll find in just about every interview, just about every podcast interview on the portrait system, that everybody is going to give you the narrative of startup between 3 to 5 years, when they were really broken through income, broken to that higher sort of sales average, and also that moment where they're just consistently ticking over marketing and shoots. So it's usually right about then. I consider at least, well, how many shoots make a folio? If you told me I needed to create something for Valentine's Day in my brand, I could go back through my library of work and find couples, right? And then create a Valentine's narrative if I wanted to create marketing. If I didn't have anything for Valentine's Day and you told me to create my own sort of visual campaign, which I can then use on my social media and my offer of value on my blog, whatever, then I would specifically go after Valentine's people to shoot to make it look like that. So it would only take me 2 shoots to be able to get enough content that I could communicate a Valentine's Day campaign. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be about volume. It's about clarity, communication, and also making sure that you've got the body of work that can deliver on what you are showing and saying you can do. Like if you've only just got 2 or 3, you might not be at a place where you're consistently delivering a high level. Hello from Brazil. I'm about to stop with weddings and focus only on portrait and education down here. You are amazing, Anna. Congratulations. And Brazil in the house, Jason Lopez. And he's also incredible. What else we got in here, guys? Tilts and angles. As I said, nothing really changes here. You know, a lot of people don't understand why and how I use different tilts and angles being standing eye line. Okay, and this is something that you get drummed into you when you join us, is your eye line is very important. I do photograph on most people's direct eye line. The only time when you look at these 2 images is Carrie Ann's curvy. I'm just above her eye line, and you can see she is leaning towards me. Aphrodite being super tall and super lean, I can get very low angles, and you know, they look like they are in perfect alignment. Usually what we used to teach was the leaner the body. Okay, the lower you can go, the curvier the body, the higher you go. But now we use our tilts, our angles, and we use posing so it doesn't look like we're shooting down on curvy clients, and nothing really changes here. I do talk about tilts a little bit when I'm shooting Aphrodite. In fact, if you look at these 3 eye lines, I'm just on her chin line there. Here, I'm actually right on her chin line, and notice my camera angle is slightly up. Then I can go just above that eye line. So even though I'm standing, my camera is not significantly higher than the last image. And then that just takes me to the eye line and then slightly above. But then I shot Carrie Ann here, and I was not posing for these. Jerson was actually shooting behind the scenes as I was doing her video. So I'm just naturally flowing, and these angles are being shown to me afterwards. And I realized I actually got to below the eyeline with Carrie-Anne with a curvy body, you can see I'm not way above her, and she's not doing a really uncomfortable recline forward, and that makes a really big difference when you're shooting curves. You know, what's really important, I say this all the time, if my client lies down, I lie down. If my client sits, I sit. My client stands, I stand. And then I adjust my angles and tilts based on, you know, the shot, the body type, and the composition. You know, Janelle, the only way to direct really sort of big movement is really, this is quite funny to say. I could not have got Aphrodite to do what Carrie-Anne and Chrissy did. Yeah. Aphrodite doesn't smile for photos. She's predominantly gotten work as a model in the past. So she doesn't even work as a model now, but she's just not her personality type to laugh and do what Chrissy and Carrie-Anne did. So to me, it's a little bit of a mixture of connecting with my client, seeing that they've got this personality, and then creating a space for them to elevate and sort of shine and be that. And that's where I focus more. If it's a client like Aphrodite, and it's clear to me she doesn't want a dancing, dress, laughing shot. She wants to look, you know, like a goddess. She wants to look like she's on the cover of Vogue. That's her thing. And, you know, you've got to always make sure that you're making sure that you are asking your client what they really want, because then you can deliver on it. All right. Did I only use one light? No, I shot this entire series with my double light setup, 2 ProPhoto B1s. Aphrodite's angles are nice and low. Nothing's changed with the angles there. There's something here I want to show you before I wrap this up, and that is composition. I do talk a lot about composition. I talk a lot about cropping in camera, and like I said, it's a game changer. But what I love to see is how it moves in flow. There are so many flow posing guides on SBE that you can go right now and print out. Okay, you can print out contact sheets and you can see progressions of how we move. It's so good to remember posing, learn about different body types, make your own flow posing guides as you start shooting consistently and getting really good poses. Do you remember when you first started out as a photographer? You would go to that shoot, you would come back, you would load your photographs, there would be 200 photos in one pose. You have not changed anything, maybe the expression, and they buy 2. I used to do that. I was so frustrated. I was like, how do I do this? And you know, I was really lucky when I first started, because I started shooting on a medium format Hasselblad camera, and a film, 120 film only had 12 frames. So we were given 1 roll of black and white and 1 roll of color, and we had 24 frames to do a portrait shoot. And you didn't see the result for 7 days. So if you got a blink, but that helped me not be a machine gun shooter. So when digital cameras did come out, guess who wasn't taking 1,000 shots at a shoot? I just wasn't. I'd take 120 for a whole shoot, because I was like, and also I'm long in the tooth. You know, I've been around a bit. I never shoot without my guides next to me. Me neither, Jillian. You know, I made my guides, so it's, you know, it's a thing, but I've also, a lot of my students use my guides for shoots and people love them. It's just something. But even if you don't want to have it in the shoot, just have it in the room before, prepare, get them locked in your brain. For me, stick figures. I would draw poses so I wouldn't forget them. And then I would say to people, we're going to do this sitting pose here like this in that jeans look you bought. And I'd walk them through the whole stick figure drawing. They were obsessed. They loved it. How do you differentiate difference between fashion photography and portrait photography as it relates to posing to your subjects? Kelly, fashion photographers don't pose their clients, models pose themselves. And fashion photography, if you look at Lara Jade's work, is there to highlight the clothing that they are selling, and a portrait is about the person. When you look at fashion portraits, you tend to look at the entire image, how the image is constructed, the model, the vibe, the outfit, but when you look at a portrait, you're more drawn to looking at that face. And that's a story of a person and an experience there. That's how I define the difference. All right. For me, look at these compositions. When she first sits in front of me, I start with that tight composition. And the reason I do it, it sells every time. It's intimate. I'm sitting close. I have a 50mm lens. I'm really close to them when I take that shot. I can speak quietly and guide their direction. I'm taking control of them for the first time. And then I start to flow through those basic cover girl tight shot compositions, 1, 2, 3, back in, 1, 2, 3. And I define composition as when I look at these 4 images, the first image being the top of the hairline to below the bust line. And that tight composition for me is just that face shot. And I've just always loved it. I've always loved it. I've always sold it. I always take it. And so many photographers don't. When you pull back, a little bit of top of the head. You don't have to crop into the headline. That tight face shot can be the only tight crop on the hair if you want. And then as you come out, you're kind of top of the head to the belly button. My third composition is a little bit more space in the head to the hips. All right, because once you go just to that hip line, the hourglass is in the shot. Okay, the hands are not unless you bring them up. So just pulling back to that composition, you have to decide, are my hands in the shot or are my hands out of the shot? Which is like what I showed you with the girl with the hands leaning towards camera. And then when I come back to the hips, I've got those boom, boom, boom. Now those 4 tight compositions is where I live pretty much 80% of my time. And the reason I do that is because my brand was specifically magazine style, Vanity Fair, cover girl. And so compositionally, this is the beauty realm. And this is where I am the most excited. One woman, one light. I like 2 lights too, but 1 light is all I need, or 1 window. And those 4 compositions. And I am a goose. I'm goosey. Okay, as I pull back to the standing, so that 4th image is the hips, so it's number 4, but she's sitting. As I pull back, this is the standing version of it. So just below that hip line, okay, shaping around that body, top of the head, and when she starts to rotate away, it's just in there, it's hips. Now, I do take that composition back right to that mid-thigh, because to me, the mid-thigh is almost full length. It's still tight enough for it to be an intimate portrait shot, but it's not a full-length portrait. And that full-length portrait on the right, I very rarely would shoot full-length like this unless they are dancing, maybe maternity drapes, throwing, and otherwise I wouldn't kind of shoot there. But because I'm focused on posing and shaping the body within those compositions, I'm getting all of my shapes based on where I choose to put that bottom line of the composition. And that's how it's locked in my brain. All right. I'll take a couple of questions. Is it a good idea to choose 10 poses to focus on when you first shoot? No, it is better to work on the 5 foundations, and then play add-on. So the 5 foundations are standing with no prop, no wall, nothing. Leaning on the wall, shooting on multiple 45s and 90s, and then mastering the sitting on a chair or a stool rotation, sitting on the floor, rotating to lying down on the ground, and then the beauty table, because that's any of those sitting positions you saw where they're bringing their hands face into that number 3 composition, and they're beautiful face shots. Focus on the foundations, those 5 foundations, and then you flow from all of those. Do you always make sure you get any catchlight in their eyes? I always make sure I've got at least 1 little catchlight there, and I will enhance catchlights. When I shoot with the Pro Photo on the ceiling like that and get that drop light Vanity Fair, I do put the 5-foot in front, and sometimes during the shoot I'll feather it. And if I do and I start to lose that catchlight, I always make sure that my top catchlight is there, because catchlights look great. How do you educate your client about type composition? Many people ask me why I cut the top of their head off. Margaret, they did the same thing to me until I stopped cropping their head off on everything but that first shot. My compositions 20 years ago, 15 years ago, were pretty much like cover girl, cover girl, cover girl, cover girl. And it wasn't until people were like, why did you cut my forehead off? That I was like, oh, they don't get it. So I went back and I'm like, I was trying to be a little bit too commercial fashion. And I went back and I really did that tight shot, that face shot. And then I pull, like I said, composition 2, put a little space above the head. You're still getting a tight composition and it looks good. As you start to lock these in, this is how I would naturally flow when I start shooting. And these are just consecutively how I'm flowing through my composition. Tight shot, I'm going to go straight down to the belly button, composition 2. Composition 3, I start opening up to more hips. What I'm doing here is I'm just exploring her face, her body. Like I've just started shooting this look. So I kind of am like, bring your hair forward, bring your arm up. I'm looking at where she's comfortable. I'm not working her expression or changing anything. Then I start to move her. And you can distinctly see when I'm in a place where I'm sort of looking around her body, and then when I'm in a place where I've started to shape her. I'll take people through rotations where I take them away from me, because here there are so many different shapes her body can make, her chin can make, her shoulder can make, her back can make, before she even brings her hands up into frame. And there are multiple ways I can move around my composition here to get different shots. Like, for instance, if I just get her to look away, I can just keep moving around in my composition. All I'm doing is asking her to look back and forward. And yet, if I go back to those, she did not change her seated position, her shoulder position, or her legs. I'm just moving around her slightly. As I rotate her back towards me, even a simple movement, like having her just moving forward and then me moving it around, will change your composition, your style, and your angle. If you have been too static because you've got a lot to think about, you're directing a client, you're being a professional photographer, you're building a business, and if you are doing all of that, really come back to exploring their body and taking control of it and just letting them move around. I love it when when you're new, you're kind of trying to get that good shot so that you can move on. I love it when you're polished and practiced, because I can set up a shot like this. And you can see in my brain that I'm looking at the shape of her body. And I've got some space to move here. Like, I'm like, I love it when the bottom of her leg came across the bottom of that frame. So I could choose to crop it out or bring it back in. And then, did it look good when it was like right on a right angle? Or should I just change my angle a little bit so it doesn't look like a flat leg along the bottom? And as I'm doing that process and I'm seeing this happen, I'm at that stage now where I can make those choices. Right in camera, it's more slow for me. It's not happening super fast. Then if I just guide her to pop a shoulder, I can go down on my angle, come up in my angle, choose to put those hands in, choose to put those hands out, and they just flow so seamlessly and connected together. Now, at this time, if I changed her expression and made her start to laugh and brought hands into the body language of laughter, I would just keep moving through my compositions. I want every single shot that I take to be different in some way, whether it's compositionally, pose-wise, expression, angles, because it just gives me this richness to sell from. I know as I'm moving her body, her angles, my compositions, and that I'm just really guiding those hands, that's where I'm getting all my changes. So I want you to try the 5 challenge. You can make it 3. I want you to do 5 changes. I want you to challenge yourself to just pick a foundation, like a chair, like pick a chair and just look at the foundation, flow from it, sit down and get a practice model, download your guides, and just explore and practice. I don't expect you to master posing in 5 years, but a lot of people in my network have. I think it's such an extraordinary skill to have. I love that, fashion photographers can't do it. We were at, I think it was Portrait Masters 2019, and I did a shoot, and we got 25 models for the shooting bays, and one of the models was my stage model. And I said to her, I know that you do this for a job, but I'm a portrait photographer, so I don't want you to move into poses because I want to direct you, and you just are really just doing what I say instead of being a model. And she was like, oh, okay. And afterwards, she walked up to me and she was like, how do you know that? And I said, well, it's what I do. I pose bodies. And she was like, no. She was like, nobody has ever shown me that. And I do this for a living. And I was like, right, because most people can't do it. I loved it. I enjoyed what it does for my clients. I enjoy what it does for the result of my photography. I enjoy creating or really getting my signature poses that match my brand. If it matches your genre, so if you shoot boudoir, you want to make sure your posing is your style of boudoir, and really mastering your craft and your genre, because all the poses are different depending on what styles you shoot. So making sure that you just are really confidently directing your clients and making sure that you're always asking them exactly how they want to be photographed so that you can create the shoot together. That's how you get results and sales and clients for life. Join me for the live expression through my live view, which I love. And that was a really groundbreaking thing that we did in 2012 when I did my first creative live. Craig Swanson, my now business partner, Craig Swanson, who's worked with me for the last 10 years, I said to him, when I'm posing curvy bodies, they're not going to understand my angles, and they're not going to understand my, tilts, and they need to see through my camera, not watching me from the side. I mean, you can see my angles from the side, which is good. But if you want to really see what's changing in my camera, then they set up a live view through my camera. And, 10 years later, it's still one of the most incredible ways to show you how people are moving within your frame. Enjoy Free Week. It's for those of you that are not SBE members, you've got so much to watch and explore and enjoy. We love showing you behind the paywall because I've been behind that paywall for 6 years, and a lot of people don't see me out there creating content, and to come in and find 1,000 videos in there and an epic community is pretty cool. For those members who are joining me today, and for those that are already at their premium level, you can go and unlock your pose series. And I got this today. You guys have always given us referrals, and this is how we get to give you a kickback. So for members, you can earn more upgrade. And for members, you sign up by going to my account. If you create a referral link and share it with any of your friends on social, and you earn membership credit for each person who signs up because of your referral. So you've always given us shout outs. This is our way of repaying you for doing that and rewarding you for doing so. If you're a non-member, you can help one of your friends by signing up through their link. And once you're a member, sign up the program and earn your upgrade and the next level of membership. And that, my friends, is me for today. I will see you Tuesday. I was going to say Tuesday the 22nd. I was going to say the 28th. I'll see you Tuesday the 22nd on the live page, Expression, Connection, and Direction. And, I was going to say and I don't have an and have a fabulous week.